Hi. Thank you for joining me. My name is Nicole Brewster. I'm the president and CEO of Renforth Resources. My presentation is up. I have to apologize. I don't actually read it to you. You can get it on my website, renforthresources.com. I'll talk around it. And if you have any questions, I'll answer those. You're duly cautioned. I'm the president and CEO. This is not investment advice. Always do your own due diligence. I am not a licensed advisor. What am I? I'm the president of a junior resource company. Emphasis is on the word junior, but it's also on resource. We have two spectacular resources between Rouen and Val-d'Or in Quebec. We are on the Cadillac Break, so the bottom of the Abitibi, and in the Pontiac south of the break. The latter is interesting because it's been entirely underexplored because we're right below some of Canada's most prolific and profitable gold country. So we have a small gold deposit. It's the Parbec gold deposit. It's contiguous to the Canadian Malartic mine, which is Canada's largest open pit gold mine. It's an interesting neighbor to have. The Malartic pit, which is 4 kilometers long and 400 meters deep, is actually exhausted. They've moved to the Barnett pit just east of that, and they're targeting production from their Odyssey deposit, which you also see on the map. Well, no, you don't. You'll see it on a later slide. It's there. It's just not labeled. That means that their production is going to fall off in about 3 years, drastically. They're targeting filling their mill. Canadian Malartic's a 60,000 ton per day operation. They're going to take ore from Marban, which they just acquired O3 to get Marban, Wasamac, south of Rouen, and Upper Beaver in Kirkland Lake in Ontario by rail. And you have Parbec sitting right there. Just a little guy that they last explored next door in 2021, and then again this summer. 2021, they told me they approved it internally for acquisition when their interest moved back to the west. Their interest has moved back to the west. That said, I've had other offers for Parbec. I'm just stubborn and I want a certain price, and nobody's offered me the price I want yet. It's not top secret, it's just math. But what am I really excited about? The Malartic Metals package. It's approximately a 300 square kilometer property. It hosts a couple things of interest. The focus is the Victoria structure. It's 20 kilometers long. It's a nickel sulphide polymetallic. We declared the resource for that earlier this fall. I just filed a technical report supporting the resource the beginning of this past week. Within the 20 kilometers, we drilled off 2.5 kilometers from the road to the west. Deepest pierce point's 320 meters. The entire resource is in an open pit. The open pit has a strip ratio of less than 1:1, so super efficient. The resource is 125 million tons, a nickel equivalent, 0.15%. It is a black shale, it's a VMS, which gives us a zinc, copper, silver, and gold. It's probably been intruded, but it's somehow interlayered with an ultramafic that gives us nickel, cobalt, platinum, and palladium. It's truly a polymetallic. We declared, I was very aggressive. I'm a little aggressive. I declared the resource on only 10,000 meters of drilling. And as we drill more, maybe the emphasis, the metal of emphasis changes. I make no promises. But I said one thing in there that's very important. We drilled from the road to the west. We have a road that runs from the city, the town, it's a town, the town of Cadillac, south to the Rapid 7 hydroelectric dam. The road runs down the center of the property. The power line for the dam runs up the center of the property. We have road access, hydroelectric power, and we are in one of Canada's most established mining camps. So our operating costs could not possibly be lower. My all-in drilling cost, geologist, lab, the whole 9 yards, my budget number is $235 a meter. You cannot get more efficient than that. Well, I'd like to see you try. So we move on. A few things before we leave this slide. We'll get to the rest of the presentation. There's 20 slides in it. Horn. Horn is in the news right now as possibly closing. It's a processing mill and a smelter. It's important because the polymetallic from Victoria could be processed at Horn by Glencore. However, important to note, Glencore has 2 zinc smelters in southern Quebec that also need feed. The other thing to note on there is due north, the Laurent mine, it's the original, it's the founding asset of Agnico Eagle in the camp. La Ronde is a VMS mine. It's a gold-rich VMS mine, but it's a VMS mine. Our VMS polymetallic material could solve a feed issue that they have at La Ronde. La Ronde is currently 3,500 meters deep, the deepest single-stage shaft in North America. Production is declining, in part because part of the processing at La Ronde was coming from Canadian Malartic, and that's ended. So we have an earlier meeting, he said to me, do you have hungry neighbors? It took me a minute. And he says, are there hungry mills? And he's sitting in here. But I like that phrase, because yeah, the Horn is hungry, La Ronde is hungry, Canadian Malartic is hungry for gold, Kiena is hungry, they're deep, El Dorado over with Lamac, they're hungry. There's not enough ore. I have a gold deposit and a polymetallic I'm building. Now this slide, actually, I have to update because what's missing from this slide, it shows you Agnico's takeover transactions to consolidate Canadian Malartic and then to take over O3. What it doesn't show you is, I just lost the name again. I keep forgetting it. Probe was just taken over. And it was announced in a week ago? So that's the latest M&A in the neighborhood. And at 2 o'clock this morning, I won't call you to tell you who took them over when I remember the name. You can look it up. Surface gold resource. Interesting, not big. Sure, the property strike of the Cadillac break is perhaps 1,700 meters. However, we are open on strike. We're open within the deposit, and we are open under the deposit. The deposit is an open pit deposit for the most part. And the open pit is full of measured and indicated ounces. The most mature ounces you could possibly get as an exploration company. Outside of that are inferred ounces in the pit and below the pit. I can't add all those categories together. I'm sure you can do the math. But I will tell you that under the cutoff grade within the open pit is another 30,000 ounces. The other thing I'm going to tell you is this resource calculated earlier this year used a gold price of $2,100 an ounce. There is room here, of course, to improve the resource. There's also room to buy the deposit from me, do the work yourself, and sell it at a higher price to Agnico Eagle. We'll see what happens. We could talk about this, but I think you should note it is high grade. When the resource was calculated, it was calculated to maximize the tonnage because our neighbor has a tonnage problem. That's why they're bringing ore from a different province. So we maximize the tonnage, downplaying the high-grade nature of the gold that is in the deposit. We could toll mill it, and if you have been reading my disclosure, I did start stripping prior to winter arriving a couple weeks ago. Well, 2 weeks ago I was there. I was not impressed. However, it could be toll milled, or it could just go to all of those mills which need ore, actually. Yep, they all need ore. Marban was the old Camflow. It's a contract miller. It's a toll milling mill. So there you go. Lots of capacity, down dip extension. We redid the interpretation of the model of the deposit this year. We interpret the Cadillac break extending under the Pontiac. That's a big deal if you're a real geological nerd. Okay, I find it exciting. You got to drill it. The yellow box is where we were stripping until winter arrived. We'll resume in the spring. Bringing us to the story. Victoria, the red line across the middle of the property, that's 20 kilometers. Lalonde is similar material. Fouillac to the south is similar material. And in fact, there's a big occurrence in the middle between Victoria and Lalonde of the same material. We have a lot of material. And what's important to know is we've done testing with TOMRA in Germany. We can sort the material to reduce the amount of throughput, increasing the grade, reducing the operating costs, reducing the chemicals required, reducing the waste at the end of the cycle. That's good news. The Victoria box there with the star, that's the 2.5 kilometers from the road to the west that we've established the resource on. We're also doing some work locally with universities about carbon capture. The ultramafic will sequester carbon permanently. We need to measure that, and we can probably be net zero. Or carbon neutral. The other thing we're studying is heap leach technology. However, we have proven with early stage metallurgical work that we can conventionally grind and float this material, meaning La Ronde due north is a target for processing, Horn is a target for processing, or arguably we have a big enough footprint and enough material, we could build a hub and spoke model of our own. However, this story is brand new. There's no infrastructure, there's no people, there's no water, there's no problems in that regard. But it gives us the opportunity to build it the best we can, and I'm not convinced we need to build a new processing mill in today's day and age. But realistically, it's not my job to build a mine. So if we get that far, I will not be doing it. I'll have hired, I know a fantastic engineer who's moved back to Quebec. So if we get there, I'm hiring him. That's not my job. So there's the resource. Like I told you, it's polymetallic. We've drilled 10,000 meters. I'm going to raise money at the end of the year to drill in the spring, and it's moving towards a PEA. It may change which metal's important. I didn't tell you about Beaupré up here real fast. Copper discovery. We stripped it over 185 meters. Afraid to drill it, did some soil work, trying to get a vector on it. Got gold anomalies in the soil. That's great, but it's not very helpful when you're trying to drill a copper discovery. We're very close to the Cadillac break. This winter, you'll see us do some IP to try and get a vector on where that is before we drill it. There, we're caught up. There's a picture of the model looking west. That's the stripping. I'm standing at the very top with some of the geologists. That's about 100 and almost 200 meters we stripped. That's showing you the mineralization on the surface. The circle is the mineralized material in the center between Victoria and Lalande. The magnetic anomaly is the ultramafic. You can't see the VMS. The VMS portion, if we can trace it, is a game changer. We're trying to trace it, but it doesn't make it easy. We do have high-grade nickel. We drilled 3.4% nickel. However, this is the slide I was trying to get to. At the bottom of this, that big rectangular thing, is our deposit looking to the north, underground. The brown shadow inside is the outline of the open pit. The deposit's very vertical. It only dips slightly to the north. We routinely drilled through it to the north, and to the south, in fact, trying to see what else is beyond it. We know there's 3 horizons so far. But you can see our drill spacing. It's only 10,000 meters. It's very aggressive. We'll fill it in. We'll try and trace some of our higher grade material. Now, real fast, what else do you need to know about Renforth? 404-ish million shares outstanding. I apologize, I have to update the number from the money I just raised. I just raised some money. What am I going to do with it? Pays for the technical report I just filed. It'll pay for IP. It'll pay for the studies with the university researcher group, which should get grant money, but it'll still require money from Renforth. I'll raise money at the end of the year for drilling. That's been committed to me already. There might be an additional amount available. I am the largest retail shareholder. I own about 18 million shares-ish. It's probably about 4.2%, something like that. Again, didn't do the math yet, of the company. The company stays alive for approximately $75,000 Canadian per year. Those are our fixed costs. Auditor, $6,000 in legal fees this year, exchange, transfer agent, insurance, rent. That's really it. The CFO and myself are contractors. I am a contractor in real life, and I run this company like a contracting company. We only raise money when we're going to work. We raise the money, we do the work. We want to keep the timing of the work and the money raised the same. I'm not a banker. I'm not here to put money in the bank. I do sit on the debt. I sit as debt with the CFO on the books. We have to pay ourselves with shares worth 5 cents a share. When the stock's there, we'll take the shares, because we also have to pay the HST. We're Canadian. It's lots of fun. And what else do you need to know? Fundraising, share payment. I know I'm forgetting something. Look at that. I've done this only 1 million times. I wrote the presentation and could do it in my sleep. Any questions? Maybe you'll remember what I forgot. Anybody? Oh, okay, yes?
You have quite a large amount of shares.
That's what I forgot. Look, I knew someone would remember. I don't believe in consolidating the shares. I'm not Australian, and I'm not trying to be Australian. However, my shareholders are individuals. There's one fund. It's a flow-through fund in the company. They won't be there forever, as we all know, but they serve a purpose. Consolidating the shares, to date, only takes money out of shareholders' pockets. The share price is a function of the asset value divided by the number of shares. We're not in an efficient market. I know the math doesn't work, but I do not intend to consolidate the stock, save a material corporate transaction that would justify consolidation.
Yeah, but raising money is a little bit...
It's dilutive. However, I add value to the asset. When I became president, I had 135 million shares outstanding. With the shares I've issued since, I've declared 3 maiden resources, sold the first maiden resource at a small profit. The other 2 resources are Parbec and Victoria. So I am creating asset value with the money I raise, and that's kind of my job. So.